And we're live. So what I was going to say is that, yeah, whenever you're not talking, do what Elise does, and just mute yourself in the background. That way you don't have to worry about background noise. I don't know whose dog is doing what where. And we're waiting for, I think, a few more people. Hold on one second. There we go. So we got Conway, Elise. I got one person that said they're going to jump in. I don't know if anybody knows this, but we have like a 50% attrition rate, meaning everyone says, "Yeah, I want to join," and "Yeah, I want to Conway, Elise." I got one person that said they're going to jump in, and then I don't know if everybody says, "Oh, sorry, something happened," but that's okay. That's why I have a lot of friends. Let's see. I had a few people that got scared off by the topic.
How could you not want to do a topic such as no free sex? Come on now.
Well, it's the concept. It's like a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that are public speakers, and they have different careers that took a different path from mine. It's not better or worse, but when you carry a company's name on your back, often that high salary comes at the cost of certain things that I can take for granted, or that Ed can take for granted because we work for ourselves. Being able to express an opinion that may not necessarily be a bad opinion, but if it goes contrary to the company line, or if it can fall contrary to whatever the socially acceptable narrative of the day is. You know, I see people having these online lynch mobs come after them for things they said 10 years ago, when they're clearly not that person anymore. The best example of a public figure is Kevin Hart, right? Who is a comedian. Some people think he's a good comedian. Some people think he's a bad comedian. He told some gay jokes in the past, and he's like, "I'm not that guy anymore. I told gay jokes and then I stopped because it just stopped being funny, and I realized it wasn't a good thing to do." And it cost him money now, which is a weird thing because we're growing up in a situation where I think we're going to have the backfire effect, and you guys can chime in and let me know. I think we're in a situation where, because everybody will have had something online in the past that they said it's not socially acceptable now, we'll have to forgive everything, even some of the most egregious things, because no one is going to be able to say, "Oh, well, I'm the one person that had a clean slate." Because now, in order to have a clean slate, you have to be groomed from birth to never say anything, essentially. You know, and I'll start with Ed, with your thoughts on that, because I know Ed he's one of those guys. He's like me. He puts his dick on the table early and often. He says things that are his thoughts. You know, hey, am I lying, Ed? What are you wearing? What is your new sense of fashion? Is that your old man?
Oh, no, this is so, you know, my girl's family is from Portugal, and so last Christmas, or was it the Christmas before? It was last Christmas. Her mom actually gave me this sweater. It was her father's, or my girl's father, and she gave it to me, and I was like, cool. And then we just happened to be going to Portugal for Christmas, and while we were over there, I bought a hat that just happened to match. So when I'm sitting around, it's a little colder than average today, and so like it wasn't, but it'll warm up into the 80s by like tomorrow. So I mean, the heat's on, but it's not like the whole house is heated because it hasn't been on. Like, we just took a dip. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna wear this around the house and keep myself warm. So it's my writing thing, and I got my coffee here with my mug from Quebec, just hanging out.
Wow, yeah, you look like a stereotypical writer. You know, with your hat on, your pen, cup of coffee in your hand, talking about, "Don't talk to me, leave me alone."
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing. I said I would drop in, so I almost didn't, not because of the topic, but I was like, you know, Yusef is the man. He always looking out. So I told him I'm gonna come in. So I'm gonna come in and drop what I can drop for an hour or so.
Well, tell them who you are and where you're from and all that good stuff for the people who are just watching.
Oh yeah, you know, I'm at Lattimore. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. That's where I currently reside anyhow. No, I'm from here too, yeah. From here, reside here. Right now, I'm 34, finished out my schooling with a physics degree, decided that I'm even smarter than that. So now I just I live off my writing on the internet, starting some companies this year to do even more with it. And just, you know, I'm what they call a sovereign individual, I guess. And that, like you were saying, it doesn't really matter. Like no one can fire me, no one can attack me. What are you gonna do? Like, tell people not to buy my books, and that's not gonna happen because I've built myself up in a way. I'm not trying to ever say anything outrageous, but I'm not gonna ever censor myself because I don't. Part of the reason why I live this life is so I don't have to listen to anyone. That, to me, having to listen to somebody, that's rough, man. I hate that. So that's where I'm at. That's why I was like, I heard you saying that about that whole, some people got a company attached to their back. I mean, I still speak in places, and I'm sure there are people who want nothing to do with me, but there are a lot who do because I bring a lot to the table. So I'm not really. I don't really trip about that. That's why I was like, oh, cool. I'll talk about it because if I don't talk about it, who will, right?
The only thing I'll say is be careful with that word sovereign. I ran into some people a while back who used that word sovereign in a way that I was very uncomfortable with because they were giving this tax and financial advice to people about how they don't have to pay taxes and about it was just a weird.
Man, you know what? That thing you sent me. You know what my reaction to that is, man. Social Darwinism takes care of a lot of people. You just gotta a lot of times like if you really are gonna take your advice on something as serious and integral to society as taxation, if you're gonna take your advice from randoms on the internet who tell you don't pay your taxes, you good? Nah, you deserve me. Something was gonna get you. Be lucky it was something as general as tax evasion, right?
Wow,
that's how. Huh?
You think they were going to do something dumb anyway?
Oh, easily, man. Come on. That's like the long term, the two things you can't avoid, death and taxes. Well, we all grow up knowing you got to pay them. If somebody is really able to convince you as an adult, as an adult, that you can get away with not paying your taxes, man, somebody was going to be able to convince you into something stupider, like, here, smoke this. That's not crack, it's sugar. Like that kind of thing.
Okay, we're moving down the line. Elise is a staple. Whenever I tell people I call her my backup gun. Whenever things have to get down and dirty, you can call Elise and she'll just mow them down. She has no time for stupidity or foolish people.
Yeah. I talk about myself. Let's see. I don't know what to say. I'm being shy today. My name is Elise Robinson. I currently live and married in Mexico. I've been in Mexico almost 3 years. I am an immigrant. I am not an expat because I got a card. I'm bragging. So let me see. I've been doing my own thing with beaforeigner.com where I help people move overseas. I got the job board going, which I'm updating. So look for that. It's supposed to be brand spanking new, more functional, cute, and everything. It's hot as hell here. I'm just trying to stay cool. That's basically all I ever do. Is try to stay cool.
On the side of your counter, the light isn't coming at you from behind. You don't look like you're a convict in a lineup, so we can actually see your face.
Okay. Yeah, because it's lighting. And I have to stay in here because if I go out in my living room, I don't really have AC out there, so I'm gonna die. So I gotta stay in my room. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess, at this point.
Brother Conway, give it to him.
Get what?
Man, I don't know. I'm just a mixed bag, man. I don't really have much. Started school, didn't finish. Decided to start traveling. Been to Brazil a few times. Right now I'm doing programming, and so hoping that'll take off. I will be back in Brazil in August for a while, actually. So this probably gonna be my last long stint in the United States. But I mean, I'm everybody's favorite and least favorite asshole. I mean, I've been called that.
Wait. Say that again.
I'm everyone's favorite and least favorite asshole. So I'm hated and loved for the same reasons, man.
I don't even know how to go around. That's one hell of a.
I mean, let me give an example. me and my boy was talking about the Black Panther movie, and we're explaining uh how I didn't really like it for my own personal reasons, and like it was a group of us working out, and every one of them like just wanted to choke me out in the gym because like the idea was supposed to be, well, you're black, you're supposed to like the Black Panther movie. And I mean, I way I express my like my opinions can be kind of crass sometimes. I mean, I admit it, but you know, like people like me, the fact that I'm honest and I'm, you know, comedic. I can be kind of, well, not kind of, a lot sarcastic. But then they're like, I really don't want to fuck with you too much because you're just way over there for what I'm used to. So, I mean, I take with it. I mean, my Facebook should be a clear example. I used to have like a lot of friends, a lot of comments on my stuff, and now, you know, like my Facebook is barren. I think I found out like 15 people blocked me in the last 2 months. I was like, whatever. Fuck it. Who cares?
Well, hey man, life is all about balance. You got to figure out where your balance mode is. The other thing I was going to say to you guys is to go into what we want to talk to today, because I had two separate conversations that kind of joined. One is when I was talking with Habib, and we got into a conversation about men and women and the conversations about relationships. And one of the things he talked about was he made and he was invited to come in today. I hope he can come in at some point. He made a very general statement about men paying for sex. And I think it came from a very judgmental place, because I look at it as, if that's what you want to do, fine, as long as there's no one being forced into it. But this is the key question I asked him at the end, as a man who, you know, he's self-employed, runs his own business. I said to him very clearly and directly, which is more important to you, time or money? He said, well, time, of course. Every man who's ever been successful understands time is more important than money. I said, so which is more expensive to spend on a woman you don't know, time or money? He said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, it's time. And I said, so why would you choose to pay the most expensive price for anything? And that kind of stuck him for a minute, because I wasn't saying what he should or shouldn't do, but I said, if by your own definition, this is more expensive, why would you choose to pay that price as a man who understands how business is done and how valuable your time is? You know, and I don't know, did any of you guys get a chance to see that? Did you guys see that part?
Yeah, I've seen that. I actually seen I've seen that, the most of it. But yeah, I resonated with that, and I was hoping to talk about that one of these days.
Yeah, I caught the end of it. That's actually what ultimately got me on today. Is I was like, oh, okay, you know, I watched this, and because I felt like you gave him a bit of a trick question, or rather a question with some false equivalencies that were implied. Really? Yeah, because here's my thought process, and he said it. He said, you know, he likes the conquest, right? And I was like, okay, I get that. And then you posed the question, and he got stuck. But I think he was going. Well, I actually don't know where he was going to go. But I'll tell you where I would have went, how I would have replied to it, and then we can play with that. My thought process is, you know, there are some things you can only buy with money or time, like sex. And then there are some things you can only buy with time, like a conquest. And he can't, at some point, right, everybody wants to pay the cheapest price they can get, right? That's literally capitalism, right? Let's make as much money as we can and keep the prices low so we can beat the competition. Well, there's some things, you know, you can't you can't just drop money on it. Like no matter how much money I throw at somebody, I can't make them lust after me, right? That's got to be an investment of time, whether it be in my body or my mind or my personality. And I think that's kind of what. Now, are we going to say, is it just about getting laid? Now, that's a different argument. But if we're talking about getting attention from women, then you got to ask yourself, well, what do you want the attention for? Do you want to feel like the man, or do you just want to, you know, get a nut off? It's one or the other. It's not the same thing.
He may have been going in that. At least your first thoughts, because did you listen to the first thing that
I listened to the 4-minute clip you sent. I didn't hear the whole thing, just the thing you sent me in the WhatsApp chat.
Elise, did you listen to it?
I didn't listen to it, so give me the little synopsis in the background.
Yeah, you can fill her in, or Gonway.
Huh?
You said you wanted the synopsis.
Yeah, the synopsis of the background summary.
If I remember right, the clip starts with them discussing paying for sex, and the guy Habib is like, "Nah, I can't look at a guy who does that as a man or something like that," and judgmental, of course, and then Yusef will pose them the question, "What's more important, time or money?" And I think he's just playing the devil's advocate. In fact, if I remember right, he doesn't say either way whether he thinks it's cool to pay for it, but he just poses the devil's advocacy question. Time or money? Okay, you say time. Well, why spend time instead of money getting it? And so, and Habib gets caught up, and he's not quite sure how to answer. And then his thought process does crystallize. You can see it, and he's about to phrase and then drop an answer, and then Yusef is like, no. Tune in next time, and so it
like an Empire episode, not that I watched them or anything.
Yeah, that kind of deal. But that's pretty much, I think, a good summary of that 4-minute convo clip that we get.
So what's the question for me? Just my thoughts on what, paying for sex, or what's more important, time or money?
Well, hold on, one thing real quick. If you hear anything in the background, we're in the middle of a brutal thunderstorm in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's like raining cats and dogs. So just gonna let you know in case something weird happens.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what I was saying, is when it came to that whole issue of prostitution, I said, if your goal is just that you want to have sex with women, why would you spend the most expensive price if it's not about that? And that was just kind of a segue into the other things. But at least, what are your initial thoughts?
I guess my initial thoughts is if you're going to pay $50, you're probably not getting high quality. I mean, she not going to be cute. She might be toothless or something. I don't know.
We're just saying in general, whatever you think.
Yeah, I agree that time is more important, because I mean, here today, gone tomorrow. You don't know when your time is up, and you can always create more money if you a hustler and smart about it. But I don't know. I guess when I was younger, my older coworker broke it down for me, and he said, I don't know how he even got on it, but he was talking about buying a prostitute and stuff, right? He was in the Navy at one point and stuff. And he was like, at a certain time, you don't want to deal with nobody talking. You want to put the time in, none of that. And, you just trying to get a nut off, and you pay for a prostitute. And so, I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, I understand, and now that I'm older, I totally get it. But I ain't paying for no sex, but but yeah.
Women, but Ganwe, what was your first impression after listening to that quick part of the video?
I mean, my last experience in Rio has completely changed my opinion on the whole conversation, because I used to be one of those guys who used to like despise the idea of paying for it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want my game to do the talking. I want her to like me for me, not give it up, whatever. Not really realizing that I was giving up time. And then I was in Rio this last time, and like my roommate, he was telling me like, he used to he does buy prostitutes. He was like, I don't feel like talking. I don't feel like doing none of that. I don't deal with games. I don't deal with none of that. So watching him, just watch it like in and out with ease, not really, he come home, he chilling, whatever. And like nobody call him, no drama. And I'm like, I can understand that. But I still like, my dad has 11 kids. I think he had more than that. So the whole idea of like money, not saying that I didn't know, but the whole idea is, for me, I kind of want to retain that charisma that my dad had. So just for me, I don't pay for it just because I want to. It's for me, it's my own self-improvement with the conquest. Like every L to me is a lesson. So I'm like, all right, well, I gave a little bit of time. I cut that off. It doesn't work. Let's try to make it happen again, and try to, narrow that gap between how much time I need to invest. Maybe I'll do like a date or something every now and then. But like for me, I wouldn't do that, but I understand why dudes do that. And I don't judge dudes for that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, A to B, you done, keep it moving. You know, whatever makes you happy, makes you happy.
Well, that's the segue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Oh no, you know what I was gonna say, what Gonway was saying made me think about something. You know, like I'm in the strict no judgment category. I don't really care what someone else does. As for me, you know, right, the enjoyment, and I think this is what Habib was getting to, and what Gonway was touching on too. For me, strictly, it was always been the experience of conquering a thing. You know, why go to the supermarket? I want to go kill my own meat and you know, cut it up, clean it up. There's something that connects me with it, to that connects me to it, that you can't buy, right? You can't get that experience. And it reminded me of something that happened to me when I was 18 with a college roommate, right? I had some people come over and they slept in his bed, drunk, messed his bed up. I felt bad, so I tried to kick him. I had a lot of money at that time. My dad just died. I kicked him $200, right? And I learned a real valuable lesson, and I think this is how it applies to this whole prostitution argument. When I got back, he was like, "Dog, I don't want your money. I just want you to know this ain't cool." And he gave me the money back. And what that showed me is that there's some things you cannot pay for. And when you try to introduce money into the argument, then it gets strange. Like, you can't pay for affection. You can obviously pay for release, but you can't pay for that conquest feeling. They're like by definition, once you pay for it, you ain't conquesting it. And once you throw that in, I think that's what throws guys off, and they don't separate the sex and the emotion. They just kind of see it all as one, or the sex and the psychological gratification, however you want to look at it. But when you keep it all together, it's real hard for you to have that discussion and reach a reasonable, like, okay, I see your point, okay, I see your point, and kind of divide it down the middle. But when you separate it out, when you separate the two, as a lot of people do, you know, then it makes a lot of sense, you know?
And you know, one of the things you said made a lot of sense about conquest, because I have friends all up and down the economic spectrum, but one thing that they have in common is that once they began paying for sex, and it could be a high quality, high end escort or a girl from the corner, they came to me and they said, well, you know, Wateef, why is it you're always insisting we learn how to talk to women? We learn how to talk to women. We learn how to, you know, enthrall women with our words. And I always said, you know, here's the difference. You are going to be right 99% of the time. It's easier to pay for it. The problem is when you run across that one woman who might be worth keeping on the team, you will have no idea how to recruit her. You are going to lose to a man with half your skills and half your values who simply has the right thing to say. Because, and I think it was Jurassic Park when they said T-Rexes don't want to be fed, they need to hunt.
Right.
If you're in hunting mode, we got a new shiny head in there. AJ.
What's going on?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Good.
Did you hear all the introductions earlier?
Say what?
Did you hear us earlier when we were introducing ourselves?
Oh, no, I literally just jumped on. I just got
Oh,
finished
okay.
with my
You know what? Tell us who you are, where you are, and what makes you amazing, and then you can catch up with what we're talking about.
My name is AJ Vassar. I'm living in Medellin, Colombia right now. What makes me amazing? Oldest of 8 kids from the hood, never been to jail. Thankfully. What makes me amazing? I don't know, man. That's all I got right now.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt or nothing like that, but one cool thing about you, Wateef, is you know a lot of like black people doing shit, man. Like you in Medellin, she's in Mexico, he going to Brazil. I try to travel, yeah, because I travel a lot. Yeah, this is cool, man. I'm just like impressed. Love it. All right, I'm back on mute.
Well, I just like to I like to have my entire idea of putting this together came about because there's another guy online who does a lot of these big Sunday rumbles, we call them. His name is O'Shea Duke Jackson. Talks about a lot of stuff, but one of the ideas I got I got a lot of friends from all over the world who do different things. There's no reason I shouldn't be bringing them together, not just for me, but to introduce them to each other, because you all may have things that you can help each other with, or just good networking contacts to know. And my friends also tend to be people who think outside of the box. If that makes sense. So what I was segueing into, and AJ, you came in either just in time or or too late, depending on who you look at it. I was segueing into the question that was on another show called The Grapevine. And one of the things they said is, should we simply go ahead and legalize or at least decriminalize prostitution across the board? And there were a lot of pros and cons on that. And I thought I was on one side of the fence, and then I thought I was going to be on the other side. And I thought I was on the other side because I looked at it from two lenses, and there are more. I'm just going to give you my two. The first side is, once we legalize it, now you have women that can eliminate pimps. There's not going to be anyone abusing them. There's not going to be anyone taking advantage of them. And they have the privilege of being able to say, hey, this man stole from me. Hey, this man assaulted me. And not have to worry about going to jail for simply being a prostitute. But the other problem I had is prostitutes. First, I'm going to make a general statement, and anyone who disagrees, I want to hear you disagree. No girl grows up and says, I want to be a prostitute. A girl might want to be president or a lawyer or a baker or a housewife, but no girl grows up saying, I want to sell my ass for money. It never happens. So now you have the most vulnerable sections of all societies being taxed on the one trade that they can get away with no training. How crazy is that? Because once that happens, once it's legalized, you better believe Uncle Sam is going to get his pound of flesh one way or the other. That was not meant to be funny by pound of flesh. I didn't mean it that way. But one way or the other, the piper must be paid. And once you're legal, you're going to have to pay taxes. Has anyone thought about that? Like, if we legalize it, are we doing these women a favor? Anybody can unmute. Anybody, jump in.
I'll say something. Yeah, I don't know if I agree or disagree because it can go in so many ways, like you said. No little girl says at 7 years old, I want to grow up and be a prostitute. I mean, there's so many things that goes into that, such as abuse. But yeah, and then the whole tax situation, how is that gonna work?
Elise?
Am I on mute?
Wait,
I'm on mute. Oh.
No. Are you making a correlation between being abused as a girl and growing up to be a prostitute?
Yeah, it's a lot of things that go into that. So that's why I'm like, it's a slippery slope. So and then the economy goes into that. There's been articles saying that since the economy's bad, prostitution is up, and it's just a mess. So I don't know.
But I mean, aren't we? So you just went with a non-committal. But my question I have for you, and I want to kind of open this up a little bit.
It's really not committable.
You're saying that girls who are abused make up most prostitutes, or they're simply more likely to become?
They're more likely to become.
Because I thought poverty was the main driver. The concept of
poverty is abuse.
I like that.
Sure. A lot of people are born into poverty, which is abuse. So I mean,
and even if that wasn't a tongue-in-cheek answer, right? What we do know is that if you want to talk correlations and probabilities, which is all you can do, right? It's not like you were poor, therefore you're going to be a prostitute, but you talk probabilities and correlation. Yeah, I mean, more abuse is likely to occur in lower incomes, especially against children in lower socioeconomic classes, and the more you're more likely to pursue trades that involve the trading of sex for money, whether that be legally as in pornography or illegally as in prostitution if you've been abused. So it's not a stretch to go A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. Kinda, you being poor, you're probably a little more likely. With that said, there's a great section in Freakonomics or Super Freakonomics, one of those books where they talk about every summer up in Chicago, there's some festival that goes on, and all these chicks that have like high-end normal jobs as teachers, they go and trick because the money's too good. Sex, as they called it, is an inelastic demand, and they were able to make in 1 week something like $10K. So
hold on, two things. One, Ed, I'm used to talking to you, and we've read some of the same books, so you use a lot of terminology that some of the people listening might not catch on to. Can you just do one quick thing for me and give us an inelastic demand?
Oh, inelastic demand is something. Y'all hear me?
Go ahead.
We good? Oh, inelastic demand is a good whose demand is not dependent or sensitive to price, or I guess it's less sensitive. For example, like gas, or not even gas. We'll go with like sugar. Sugar is very price elastic compared to like your insulin medicine is inelastic. You need that shit, so they can jack it up to $200 a vial and you'll pay. But if they jack sugar up to $200 a pound, you're not going to use any sugar. So elasticity of a good is, just how sensitive it is to price change.
So I want to jump in, right? Because I live in Medellin where like prostitution is legal. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not illegal here. And a lot of it comes from the fact that it is it is a lot of poverty, you know what I'm saying? So, and these women are beautiful, right? I think that I feel like prostitution should be legal. You have two consenting adults doing what they want to do. Most men feel like until you find your wife anyway, even if you don't pay for it, you paying for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and I right, wrong, or indifferent. It's like hell. If I'm gonna take you out, if I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna take you out. I'm gonna get you something to eat. I'm gonna take you to the movies. I'm gonna do all that for the same amount. I could have got a prostitute in Medellin 3 times over. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think once I started becoming friends with prostitutes, it started changing my mindset. When I came down here, I had a very negative connotation on prostitution and how that is. Down here is different, right? Like prostitution down here is like people that sell weed in the States. It's like, man,
that correlation got me.
Yeah, it's like,
let me back up for a quick second, though. Let me ask a quick question. You said when you became friends with them. There's nothing wrong with having a friend who has any different job than you, as long as it's not a contract killer. But my question to you is this. Are you talking about you met a woman and you two became friends, or you were a client and then you became friends?
No, I met a woman and I became friends. Like my homeboy was the client and he was like, yo, you're thinking like an American. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, because coming from the States, I'm just like, bro, I can't pay for no ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, dog. Like, you be thinking like, okay, this is what cats do when they can't get none. You know what I'm saying? They pay for it, and then I mean, you come down here and it just like totally shifts your mindset because it's like, nah, this is what cats do when they don't feel like putting up with stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Or when they don't feel like.
So the question becomes, you're saying you're friends with women who are prostitutes, but you've never paid them.
No, never paid them.
So with
never paid them.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we were both thinking the same way, because once you've ever paid a woman for a service, you can never be friends.
I mean, go ahead, man. My bad.
No, go ahead, bro. Speak.
No, I gotta call Bull on that one because I mean, you've been to Rio, Yusef, so you kind of know the climate in Rio. The prostitution scene in Rio is crazy. Like the second time I went to Rio de Janeiro, September 2017, is where I met my roommate, and he asked me like, "Have you ever been to a bordel or a whorehouse?" So I was like, nah, man, we don't do that in the States. No dudes don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, nah. So I got tricked into going. So we went to a party in Madureira, a little old school joint. And he was like, oh, I'm going to go to another party. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, we walk up. It's a whorehouse. And I'm like, wait a second. I thought you said we was going to a party. He was like, oh, surprise. And this man is dating a prostitute. Now, you would think that's craziness. I mean, she looks crazy good, better than any chick on the street. But the thing about it is, it's crazy. Like, you would think, like, he's getting it for free. Like, he's not paying nothing. So, for a lot of dudes that say, well, you could never pay for sex, like, some of them dudes in South America, I don't know about any other place in the world, but I know in Rio, a lot of them prostitute chicks is giving them dudes the benefits for, like, all the benefits, girlfriend, wifey, for one fee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you pay your activation fee, you good. For the rest, you good until you decide to break up with her. You know what I'm saying? So, for my story, I actually met two chicks one of them, she openly admitted, she's like, "Yo, I'm a sex worker. Guys pay me for sex." So I'm like, "All right, I got it for free. Like, I didn't pay nothing. She didn't even like. We just went got a beer and that was it." The other chick, she didn't tell me till we came over. Everything was done, and she's just like, "Oh, well, you're American, so you should know that I'm a prostitute." I'm like, "I had no idea. You didn't tell me this. We've been talking for 3 months." So I mean, as far as the prostitution thing being legal, should be legal, but there has to be some caveats with that. Like, I don't think it should just be like laissez-faire, just everybody pay $20 or $50 and you just go slang meat and that's it. Everybody's happy because there's gonna be some negative consequences to that. There are some negative consequences.
I gotta ask the homies down there in South America where it's legal and it's just jumping off like cats selling weed, like you said. I gotta so like how old? Like, what's the age of them? Like are these girls like prepping for this? I mean, are they going to school doing it? Is it a full-time gig? Like
Well,
where is that over?
let me tell you the
curious
difference
about
that
that.
I've seen. I lived in Las Vegas and I ran a company out there for several years, and I saw prostitution there. I saw prostitution in Tokyo, Japan when I lived there, and there are always different levels. And one of the first things you learn is that there is no such thing as standard. For example, what you said happened in a different city. In Las Vegas, they would have a NBA All-Star Weekend, I think is what it was, where they would always set the record for arrests in one weekend. And it was never for drugs and it was never for murder. It was because women all over the world who in their city were doctor, lawyer, school teacher, nurse, knew that in one weekend they'd make more than they would make all summer as a high-end prostitute in Vegas. And they would be setting up that 2 or 3 clients that were high rollers since before they got in there. When you talk about are these girls being groomed, I think it becomes whatever is normal. But then on the other side, when I lived in Tokyo, my friends were telling me it's just pandemic that girls who do not come from poor families, who were not abused, just see prostitution as, oh, I want a new handbag. Dad said no. Yeah. Now I'm not telling you that's general. I'm telling you that is an overgeneralization, but it's something that I actually saw. And he explained to me. He says none of these girls are poor that you see out here being represented by the guys on the corner. He's like, these aren't girls that live in a homeless shelter whose fathers beat them too much. It just didn't happen that way. It's a rich country. People had the wealth, but it was a very different thing to see. Hold on. You know what? Brandy jumped in. You want to say hi, Brandy?
Hi.
Tell us where you are and what you're all about. Give us a quick introduction so everybody knows who you are, Brandy.
Okay. I think I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm live in Houston, Texas. I'm a school teacher. Me and my daughter have been back in America for a couple months. We were deported from Kuwait. And now we're going to Bangkok in July, and I'll be a teacher there.
And so what did you pick up on these last few minutes? I don't know. Had you looked at any of the videos that I sent as kind of precursors?
Yeah, I looked at some of them, yeah.
Did you see the one that was just the 4 minutes with me and my friend and that bit of a discussion? You want to jump in and just kind of give us a primer on what your initial thoughts were before we go any farther?
I didn't see that one. I think I saw the other ones, which were the people that were at the, I think it was the round table that they were discussing.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. So yeah, when you said, Ed, when you said you want to know where these places are, where these things are jumping off, it's all cultural. Different cultures handle things differently on what's legal, what's illegal, what's okay, what's not okay, what's ethical, what's unethical, what's moral and what's immoral. It's completely different. I mean, I've lived in enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like Elise was saying about, or we mean at least we're like saying the correlation here in the States is to that poverty and abuse, but that's not necessarily true in places where it's I guess a legal outlet and a legal thing that can occur. So, there's people going, I'm gonna just, do this to make, get the bag for the weekend or something like that.
Now, the thing I have to say to you guys is I'll give you 2 examples. I think, I'm not sure, and if anybody from France wants to correct me on this, please call me out in the comments. Wasn't there a French president who married a woman who was a former stripper and prostitute? And we know the first lady now, what's her name? Ivanka Trump? No. Is it Ivanka Trump is the first lady now?
Melania.
Melania Trump, who's the current first lady, had a long, clear history of doing porn before she became the wife to the man who became president. And it, in no way, of all the things that people had to say pro or against Donald Trump, the fact that his woman did porn was never even an issue. So are we entering that phase where it's kind of like, oh yeah, my girlfriend used to be a teacher. Oh yeah, my girlfriend used to be a stripper. My buddy Kai did a video called Lessons I Learned from Dating a Stripper and How It Can Help You Too. When I put the link in that, in the comment section, he often talked about how you need to get your ego destroyed. There was a comedian named Patrice O'Neal, a phenomenal comedian, but he often talked about how you have to get your ego crushed in a certain way to be free of the pressure that talking to women can put you under, so that you're free to just be okay with everything and know how to handle everything because you've been in those situations and you know the way things could work in other situations. I don't know if I'm rambling here. Had any of you listened to any of those? I don't know, but Patrice,
I would say no. So how long y'all gonna be on here? Because I actually got one more call to jump on, but this is dope. I never had it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can get back on. We should be here. The door is open for you.
I bet I'm gonna jump back on.
All right.
But yeah, I listened to a lot of Patrice. Patrice also says something about when he's talking about George Lopez. I guess George Lopez got busted with a prostitute at one point, and he said something real interesting when he was talking about that bit. He goes, in the world of cheating, George Lopez did the right thing. He didn't like go get some young broad that could have been following him home, living up with his wife and kids, because he could have been that guy. He could have been like, this is how it's going to be, and you're going to just have to deal with it. He was like, no, he went and got somebody that wasn't going to follow him home, and like they say, you don't pay him to stay, you pay him to leave, that kind of thing. And when you were talking about the I guess the whole paying for it and just getting off, you don't want to talk to nobody. Yeah, I thought about, Patrice O'Neal's got a lot of good stuff to say on this topic, and that whole get your ego crushed kind of deal. I think he was talking about his girl swinging or something. Maybe not swinging, or she used to be a hoe. That's what it was. She used to like mess around with all his homeboys before she met him.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think it was. He's like, you have to put yourself in a situation mentally to understand, maybe you'll be the last, maybe not, but you weren't the first. So you can't allow her behavior in the past or current make you stay off of your game. You can be who you are or you're not. So when we were talking, you're back already, AJ?
Yeah, they needed to reschedule, so that was perfect.
You probably got on and said, listen, what you're talking about is not nearly as fun as what we're talking about.
It was hilarious.
But yeah, when he talked about that, he was very clear in saying you got to have your ego crushed. So when you talk about, especially, you talk about Rio, Ganwe, and you talk about living in Medellin, Colombia, AJ, about how the culture is this different. In Sao Paulo, maybe I just don't live in that area, but I don't see it that way. I don't think. Also, Sao Paulo is a business city. People don't come here. It's not a place where you go. It's a place where you come for education and to make money. Rio is where you go when you want to have fun. I'm not saying that people I'm gonna get so much trouble for this from my friends in Rio. It's not that they aren't smart. In the process of becoming Brazilian, I've also kind of inadvertently adopted this unofficial warfare between the cities of Sao Paulo and Rio, because the people in Rio say, everybody in Sao Paulo are these stuck-up assholes and blah. But then they look at the people in Rio and they say, well, yeah, but you're all poor and ignorant. That's why you have to come here to make money. And it's a weird thing.
It gets real, man. I've been in the middle of that since I went to Brazil. In fact, my boy from Sao Paulo, he was like, oh, where you coming? I was like, I'm going to be there in September. He was like, you going to live in Rio? I'm like, yeah, man, Rio's my city. He's like, it's so messy, and the people are lazy. I'm like, come on, man. What I'm saying? Like, everybody got their own thing. Like, what I'm saying? So it's real. It's hard not to get caught in between that.
Well, and the only time I did see open prostitution, I have a friend that lives in a very, we'll call it a semi-wealthy neighborhood here in Sao Paulo that saw something I have never seen in my working class neighborhood. I walked outside after we had a party, and I'm waiting for my Uber, and it was maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, and there was a transgender prostitute doing her business under a streetlight with a man just out there. And I looked and I said, this would never happen in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, you have people pushing strollers down the street, talking on their phone because it's just a regular business family place. But in that neighborhood, it was just open. And one of my friends, she said, yeah, that makes sense here. Who do you think is financing and paying the most of the prostitutes? These businessmen on the way home or on the way to work, they stop and get one here and there, and it's just a very different. It's far more affordable there than what would be in your neighborhood. And it was this. My mind exploded when she explained it to me that way. So going back to the other topic, though, to the original premise, should we just legalize it? What are the pros and? I mean,
yes,
huh?
yes. Yeah,
okay.
You
jump right in. Here's the thing: give me the pros, but then I'm going to ask you more importantly, because we know nothing comes for free. What are the pros and the cons?
So the pros are, to me, the pros are you have people that are doing it anyway, right? As long as it's not hurting people, as long as you have two consenting people doing it, because what's the difference between a woman and my, like I said, my mentality has shifted since I came here and I've been able to become friends with the clientele and the clients, right? So if you have people that's doing it, is it, because I think to me, I look at it like this. If you're going to sleep with a dude for a Gucci bag, what's the difference from sleeping with him for the same $300? You know what I'm saying? Like, because women are sleeping with dudes for things anyway. Dudes are tricking off stuff to sleep with women. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just a female thing. I feel like dudes do it more than females. You know what I'm saying? Where they're financing to get ass. So why not just, if you're gonna make it, instead of it being all of the misconceptions of we're together, yo, just make that junk legal and be like, look, this is what I want. This is what I want to pay for it. If you down, you down. If you ain't, find somebody that is. You know what I'm saying? The cons is that, to me, and they're really big on this here too. The cons are, because the money is so quick, right? You have a lot of young girls trying to get into it. Right. So like in a place like Parque Jadis that we have in Medellin, the police stroll and they go up to the females that look younger and ask for ID, because they know why they're out there. Right. It's like, it's not a misconception. Like, if you're strolling in Parque Jadis, we know why you there. Right. And so the downside is, yes, you have the young girls. The other downside is there are times where you'll deal with a female that's not a prepago. That's what they call them here, prepagos. It's prepaid.
You know, that's hilarious, because in Portuguese, that word means the exact same thing, and we use that word for our phones, prepago.
Prepago, yes, yes. So if you're a prepago, you can legit meet a female that's not a prepago, but if she's down on her luck for the moment, even if she vibing with you, if you smash, she might say that's 200,000 pesos. You know what I'm saying? Just because she needs it, right? Not even because she's.
You mean she would try to charge you for a service without saying ahead of time who she is and what? That sounds kind of. I've never heard of that.
It happens, because it happened when I was in Kuwait. I saw it. It happens.
And I don't care what the business model is. You're going to give someone your product and then tell them the price afterwards when they didn't know they were making a purchase.
But this is the thing. When people are in need, right? When people are in need, it's a total different atmosphere, man. When you hungry, when you got kids at home, like you don't look at it like that. You just know that, look, I vibe with you, but at the same time, I understand I gotta get that paper. And I know you got it because you're American. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so much to you, right?
So let's go back there. Were we right when Elise? No, go ahead, Elise. I think I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
No, being an expat all these years, these last couple of years, man, I done heard so many stories, and Colombia is got to be the worst. Like, I had thought about moving to Colombia before I came back to Mexico, and man, just Facebook posts are ridiculous about Colombia. So Colombia.
But it's how you move. It's how you move, right? So, and if you don't move right, then you'll get got. I mean, that's just it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when dudes come down here to visit, I tell them, look, bro, these two things you need to realize. Number one, no chick is gonna try to get at you. That's number one. I don't care how cute you think you are. I don't care what you think you got. No chick is gonna try to get at you. right? That's not their culture. Okay. If a woman comes up to you and she's interested in you, you need to ask her two things: how much it costs, because there is a cost. If she says it's for free, she finna drug your ass. Period. Those are your only two options. If she want to go back to your place for free, she's gonna drug you. Right. So it's not oh, I'm the man here. You know what I'm saying? I look nice. God, that don't matter.
Bro, please tell me you didn't find that shit out the hard way, man.
No, but I know three guys, hands down, that's been drugged down here.
No shit.
Like, real shit. Like 3 dudes I know personally. Like, then came up to the spot that we gonna hang out at, and they like, yo, I got scopolamine. You know what I'm saying? I woke up 12 hours later and all my stuff was gone.
I believe it, because it happened in Oman. It happened in Oman. I saw it in Oman and Kuwait. Prostitution is real big over there too.
Yo, you gotta move. You gotta move a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you down with it, be down with it. But don't try to get them, because this is, like I tell my guys, they do this for a living. You know what I'm saying? We do this on vacation.
Professionals.
Bruh, it's not a vacation for them. This is life. You know what I'm saying? They know how to find
question. Does it matter where you're meeting these women? If I'm in the shopping mall buying new frames for a new pair of glasses, and I say, oh, the girl selling me these glasses are cute. Let me say, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee after you get off your shift. Am I in equal amounts of danger as the guy who's walking down the street standing looking under a street light?
In Rio, no. In Rio, I no.
No, but you met her at her job, right? You know where you can find her again. So no, you're not in danger. but let's flip that, right? Let's flip that.
Thailand, you would hear a lot of these stories too, but then I had another dear friend of mine, and one of the first things he did, he's had several girlfriends in Thailand, but he said he only approaches women at their job. Because I was telling him the one place I never feel comfortable trying to approach a woman is while she's working, because she's working, she's under pressure, she's got other things to worry about. He said the only place he'll approach a woman is there, because their yes is real and their no is real, but they're not women who are looking to work him, you know? And that was a difficult thing for me to really digest. So I think it goes back to kind of what Elise said, though, that correlation between poverty being a form of abuse and poverty producing prostitution. Because Thailand and Brazil have one thing in common. In Thailand, they call it the Isarn, and in Brazil, they call it the Northeast, where there is an area of the country that, in my opinion, is intentionally kept underdeveloped. Because what it does, it forces people to go to the bigger cities to work for less money to keep those engines going. So it's kind of like having an area in your country where everybody is very poor, so that the big factories in New York, Texas, and Los Angeles can have workers. So when you go to a restaurant in Sao Paulo, as I'm practicing my Portuguese, I'll go into a restaurant and talk to a waiter and not understand a word he said, and then have somebody say, it's not you. It's that he comes from a place that's so poor and so remote that he's not even speaking correct Portuguese to you. And so I wonder if it's going to be the same, the women who are working on the street. Are these women who are just coming from some of the most destitute places? And I'm not looking for anybody to give me any admissions of anything they're not comfortable discussing, but I wonder if that correlation is there. And if we legalize it in America, would it get poor women out of poverty, or because of taxation, get them further into it? And I don't know which way to go with that, because my heart and my gut are kind of, one part of me says whatever we have to do to keep them out of a situation where they can be abused. But the other side is, now you're taxing the poorest women in the world on the one trade they can get into with no training because they're poor. Uh-oh. Elise, are you taking off on me? Okay, go for it.
No, I don't know if you had posted it in the group or not, but it was Denmark or Switzerland or one of them European countries, and they actually have like booths and stuff that you can go into and pay and stuff, and and they pay a daily fee to prostitute, and I just thought it was like not funny but funny, like odd, curious, whatever.
I think that, I forget what country it is, but I have friends who've been there where it's kind of like a barbershop. Girls pay a floor fee, and they have that booth for the day, and they can attract clients that want to come in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I want to say it was like Denmark or something. I don't remember, but it was over there in Europe. And I thought that was interesting. I guess if America wanted to follow that model, I mean, they have an example already.
Brandy, do you have any input on that?
No, I don't.
I got some more. I got more.
Oh,
And
you always have more, at least. That's why I love it.
no, I'm just gonna talk about it from what I've seen in Mexico and here in Merida. Like I actually saw them standing out. You know, they had like hot pink on. So I guess I should never wear hot pink and like really bright colors on and stuff. And they had the dresses on. Their faces all made up and and I'm like, oh, they're like prostitutes.
They're 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, this was back in like December or January though, when it was cooler. It was only in like the 80s. Now it's like in the hundreds. But yeah, they were standing out. They would it was like it looked like a restaurant or a saloon or something, whatever you want to call it. And they're standing outside and stuff, they're all happy, waving and stuff. I'm like, okay. And then when I lived in Mexico City, they actually have a whole red light district and stuff where I used to go and get my hot dogs because I love hot dogs. But they got like the best hot dogs in all Mexico City there. But anyway,
I'm laughing.
And I'm talking about hot dogs. Hot dogs, real hot dogs.
I'm laughing because I just left Mexico City in March. And Mexico City was so trash though. Like, I don't know. It was garbage. Mexico City was like, and I guess that's the thing with me. It's like once you've been in Colombia, I think Colombia ruins it. It's almost like Colombia is like the Atlanta of strip clubs. Because I feel like if you ever go to a strip club in Atlanta, you cannot go to another strip club in the entire world because it just ruins it. Like no other place is like that. And that's how Colombia is. Like the women, it's on another level, man.
Now here's my question to you, and this goes back to what I said earlier. If we remove whether or not people think it's right or wrong for a woman to be able to prostitute, do you believe as a man it diminishes your ability to just go out and see a random woman who's not a prostitute and know what to say to her and how to approach her if you get used to being able to just use it as a transaction? I feel like from what I've seen men lose their ability to just see a woman and say, I'm gonna go talk to her because they don't sharpen that axe anymore. They don't know how to go out there and as Ed said, kill dinner.
Yeah, speaking of which, I gotta bounce, y'all. But nice meeting all y'all, man. Thanks for coming on. All right,
I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, peace.
Does it diminish it? You know what? It depends on what you had to go through to get in the first place, right? I mean, because some dudes some dudes are never gonna sharpen their axe because they're scared of that no, right? So it's like I'll put it like this: being down here, I feel like it sharpened my axe more when I go back to the States or anywhere else because it's almost like you have so many chicks try to talk to you here, for the wrong reasons, but it does build your confidence. You know what I'm saying? Like when you got the top 5 baddest chicks you've ever seen in your life all try to holler at you and get your attention.
But wait a minute. The top 5 most beautiful women, they're not saying, hey, let me come over and make you some scrambled eggs in the morning. They're saying, purchase a product from me. How does that That's like me playing Super Mario Brothers on easy mode. I don't get to go brag about that later. I can say, yeah, it's fun, I got to see everything.
But you know what? You know what it does? It makes your, and I've seen this hands down, it makes your ability to talk to women easier because you've had beautiful women approach you. Right? Most men have not had beautiful, I'm talking about beautiful, like I'll take you back to the States and wife you and everybody will want you beautiful. Like most men haven't had women like that come at them. You know what I'm saying? And me included. And I feel like I've dated some very attractive women, but I had to work for them. You know what I'm saying? Like the women down here, it's like, yo, you're on another level. You know what I'm saying? And you still try to holler at me. So when I do go approach a woman, it's not hard no more because it's like, it's I don't know if this is good or bad to say, but it's almost like, hey, there are bad women out there that, you know what I'm saying, will holler at you. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it a lot easier to approach other women because it takes that, I don't know if it's a fear thing, I don't know what it is. It just takes it away. So talking to women is and especially normal women, yeah, I can talk to them easy now. Even if I don't know the language, I can holler at you.
What is a normal woman?
No, I'm saying a non-working woman. or not working.
I don't know that the word normal applies to anybody. There's no such thing as normal. In my travels and sojourns around the world, normal is a word that people use to scare each other.
Yeah,
go ahead, first. You said my bad.
Did you unmute yourself so I could listen to you scratch your back, John Wayne?
No. I was gonna say because you was talking. No, I was gonna say in relation to your question, whether you said would it, sharpen men's axes, would it dull it? I think it wouldn't sharpen men's axes, but it wouldn't be for the reason of them simply paying. I think the stigma, or I don't know if there's another word for it, but like if a man, like the majority of men wouldn't want to marry a prostitute, right? I mean, let's just be honest about it. Like, a majority of men wouldn't want to marry a prostitute. So, would a man necessarily want to sharpen his axe to say, like, to enthrall a woman if he in his mind knows that she's slept, she's a working girl? I mean, we have to ask that question. I don't think it's as cut and dry as, okay, well, you're paying for it, and now you don't know how to talk to a normal woman simply because it's on the premise that you're paying for it. Is a man really going to want to build his axe if he knows that, there's a good possibility that, she has a lot of bodies? And I mean, that's just it. I mean, I can look at it, like I said, by my experience, I can go by real in itself. I know a lot of dudes that go, like, there's canastras on Tuesdays in Rio de Janeiro, and it's a gringo bar, and dudes tell me a lot about them chicks that be over there. Like, they be on Tinder, you see them, like, oh, that's a Tinder chick. And they tell me, like, look, a lot of these chicks got bodies, dude, and a lot of these chicks be on Facebook in these Facebook groups crying about not having boyfriends. So on that, we can go on that premise. I'm not even talking about prostitution. So we add prostitution to it. I mean, are men really gonna want to put in the time and effort to talk to a woman, sharpen his skills, to be like, okay, well, she's a prostitute, she done slept with 50, 60 men, and I'm just one more on the belt? Are men really going to want to do that? And I think no. So I think if prostitution is going to be legal, I think we got to think of the social ramifications of making it legal. Not saying that I would disagree with it being legal. I just going to know that there's going to be a backlash. It's not going to be as cut and dry as you get a nut and she gets $150 and everybody walks away happy. That's not going to be the case. Somewhere down the line, both parties are going to have an issue.
In Las Vegas, I have several friends, and I actually wrote an article. I did a podcast with one of my friends who's been in the adult industry for many, many years. And one of the things that I've seen of women who are in that trade, we used to call it the skin trade. It could be stripping, it could be prostitution, it could be pornography. Whatever it is, they come out with, just as men don't learn how to sharpen their axe, the women who are in that trade long enough, and I don't know, it could be 1 year, it could be a million years, feel free to interject, it becomes, they have an inability to actually bond with a man, because men are now seen as, they're seen as commodity generators, not just someone I can actually like. They're seen as men who are only there to give you something, and everything has to be transactional. I don't know if anybody else has ever seen or heard about that.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, strippers in Atlanta are like that. They look at the dudes that they deal with, you know what I'm saying, as, I mean, you just a John, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they look at you. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's, like you said, it's transactional. But I think it just takes two people that, I mean, you can be attracted to somebody that's a prostitute. Females are attracted to men that's whores all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just, if you.
That's true, but and I want the women to feel very clear that they can jump in on any time on this. Men are attracted to women for reasons that are very different for the reasons that women are attracted to men. We judge each other on very different scales. It's never been the same. Now, we can argue the good or bad of that, but what we can't argue is that we're going to be able to use the same criteria.
Agreed.
You know, so the other problem I have is that, you know, you ever heard the term a one-trick pony? I think that if you're in a situation to build a relationship with a working girl, no matter what her work is, you're in a situation where does she have any other skills outside of that area? If you take her to the barbecue on Sunday, you know, her behavior could mess a lot of things up if she lives in a world where certain behaviors are acceptable. I heard somebody in the background. I didn't want to cut anybody off.
I mean, I guess my question would be, well, how do you think she would be acting at the barbecue? Like, is it some kind of special way she's supposed to be acting? Shoot, I act the fool at the barbecue, and I ain't no working girl.
What I've seen is that, for example, we know that someone has diminished social skills if their job requires them to only be behind a desk for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. We know that some of those people don't develop the social skills they need. But so the same could also be said. We know that someone whose entire world revolves around the trading of sex for cash is also going to be socially stunted in different directions. Though it will be easier for us to say to our friend, oh, you know, he's not really good at mingling at the party because, you know, all he does all day is sit behind his desk on his computer. But what happens when you bring the woman in who everything she does is a commodification of sex for money? How will she behave in that situation? Could it be an issue?
I think you're looking at that kind of wrong though, because like the females that I see down here, they're more socially advanced than most because they have to. Like even in Atlanta, like strippers are some of the best people to talk to, right? Because they know how to carry conversations with everybody. Like that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? They know how to engage. That's their job, is to be social. They know how they read people the best. They can tell you what's happening, and you don't need to see that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because that's their job. They have to read. They have to know, you know what I'm saying, who going, who ain't. Like this is what they do. So when it comes to the social aspect, I don't know if I follow you on that one.
I mean the caveat with that is how, like, where's the line though? Like so I mean, if that's what their job is supposed to be, doing that so they can make money. If you're trying to get, like, somebody trying to be genuine with them, where's the line between, well, this dude is another stack versus this is somebody that sees genuine interest in me? And I really think that line is very obscure. I don't think a lot of them have the ability to discern that. I mean, you dealing with, let's say in a given week, a working girl deals with 50 Johns, right? And each one of them dudes is paying her. And you just one dude, you know what I'm saying, you express interest in her. What's I'm saying, like, if you, like, what's the expectation? You think she's gonna be genuine with you or not? Like, as a man, you have to take that risk into account, you know, speaking to her. And at the same time, her speaking to you, she may just think you just another John that's trying to play hard to get with the money. I mean, it's back to what Yusef saying, like, you know what I'm saying, they're socially stunted because that line is skewed. That's all they know is having to be personable to get, you know, to put food on the table or get the things that they want. So I don't really think, I mean, I'm gonna have to side with Yusuf on this and say that, yeah, they're stunted as far as their social skills, but, you know, that's just because they have to do that for work. Outside of that, we have to question their ability to communicate, you know, in a normal environment. Normal being, you know, like a social environment that doesn't include money.
I got something to say. I mean, would you meet her after she's done, you know, with her so-called career of being a prostitute, or is you trying to take her out the game? Because I've never spoken to a prostitute. I don't have friends that are prostitutes. I have female friends and male friends that have tricked, but they don't do it full time as a job. So I don't know, you know, are men out here trying to take them out the game, or are they meeting them after, you know, they didn't put 10 years in? I mean, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
Cats come down here and try to take them out the game.
Huh? What'd you say?
Cats come down here and try to take them out the game. Like,
oh, I know they do. I got expat stories. I know plenty of dudes that have married they prostitutes. So I mean, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody's looking, at her when she's trying to get out of the game. One of the things that you see, interestingly enough, in Las Vegas is every cafe or casino restaurant. Shout out to all the Las Vegas buffets because they're designed for people who are going to come in and spend money gambling, and then they give you this cheap buffet that has every food from all over the world cheap. And then me, I just rolled in there with my little $9.99 with no intentions of gambling and eat until I couldn't walk anymore. So. The bad old days. But in any case, what I'm saying is that you see a lot of situations where I can tell you there's no place to go after that career. You've got an airplane in the background.
Yeah, that's me. I'm right by airport. My fault.
Whenever you're not talking, just go ahead and mute so you don't have to. But what I was going to say is that you don't get to retire and then take a job at a dress shop. I'll give you 2 examples that happen to people I know in real life because in Las Vegas, you often do get women who have been in the sex industry, been in the skin trade, or been a stripper who wants to get out. So say you have this 25-year-old woman who's been stripping or being a prostitute for 5 years. And one of my friends runs a mid to high-end dress shop. And she told me every now and then there'll be a woman who comes in and says, hey, I'm good talking to people. I want to sell dresses. I'm sure, blah, blah, blah. The first red light comes when, well, who can I call that you've worked for before? I mean, you're 25 years old. Have you ever, I don't know, McDonald's, another dress shop, something? Well, not really. I used to be a dancer. Okay, here we go. Now she actually said something that she can't say on the record. She said, no woman in any position of authority. Well, say again? Oh, she said, no woman with any say-so in the job hiring process will hire a woman who has been used to trading her sex for privileges with men. She said, no woman wants to be around that woman. It's just a terrible idea. The only people who are harder on women who have been in the sex trade and the skin game are men in positions to hire. A lot of my friends are restaurateurs. I was in the hospitality food industry as a chef for a while. I did a lot of things. But one of the first things that they always say is that you avoid at all costs a woman who has ever used sex to trade for any value, because you never want to be in a situation where she says, hey, next Friday, I know we've got this big party going on. Can I have next Friday off anyway? Well, of course not. Everybody works next Friday. You know we've got this big party coming in. I need everybody on the floor. Now, what is she going to try to do to convince you? And what's going to happen when you say no and she says, oh, well, he tried to touch me? It's just when sex is their only tool in the toolbox, that's a tool they can use to make money, or it's a tool that can be a hammer. And he was telling me these horrible stories about these girls who they all end up back in the business until it finally just drives them up because there's no place to go after that. And that's my concern.
I guess my thing would be you would have to move cities, states. I mean, if I was a sex worker, I wouldn't probably stay in the same place where all my clients were. That wouldn't even make sense. I mean, I don't know what prostitutes do afterwards, outside of pornography where, it's out there, Yeah,
and it's just a hard and harsh reality, because for the first 4 or 5 years in that business, they make a disproportionately large amount of money for what they do. But once they hit that 25, 26-year-old mark and they've been doing it for a few years, it just drops into the other is that you have to have zero training to do it. So your competition isn't the other young woman who went to school, got a degree or finished high school. Your competition is every girl who just is 18 with a cute body. She can actually come and take your job, and that's a scary situation. AJ, were you about to say something?
No, you paused for a minute, so I didn't know if you.
I think you froze. Were you about to say?
Yeah, maybe it's me that froze.
No, he froze for a minute.
Oh, he did. Yusef did.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you froze, Adrian. I think AJ has a connection problem. Yeah, AJ skipping around. It's not me, right? Am I skipping?
Yeah, you stopped for me for 15, 20 seconds, so I don't know.
Hey, am I coming through clearly or not?
You're good now.
Now you're good, yeah.
Okay, I think Okay, I think Adrian may have to click off and click back on. I don't know what his connection is like. So, have we come to any ideas on how this is going to actually help women if we legalize it? I mean, do the bad outweigh the good?
I mean, it depends on what side, though. Like, I mean, if we talk about for the women's side, I mean, how it's going to benefit women, but we got like the aftertakes. Like, what is that going to be if it's legalized? I mean, what can you do? What can you implement so that both parties are like mutually satisfied or is mutually beneficial? I mean, it'll be beneficial to women too, but to men as well, so it doesn't damage or have some negative implication on men too. So I mean, what can you do with something that's as taboo as prostitution? I mean, it certainly is taboo in the United States. I mean, maybe you could take lessons from other countries to kind of see what mix and match and see what happens out of it. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you.
Well, I know.
Go ahead.
I guess I think it was Denmark. I don't know the country. But I mean, America's not as free as a whole bunch of other countries. And I can't imagine, there's sex booths, up the street around the corner from our neighborhood. How's that gonna go down? Nobody is gonna have that. So, I remember when, they were protesting about casinos. I mean, it's just a casino. So imagine, there's sex booth, a quarter of a mile up the street, from this major neighborhood. How's that gonna work?
Well, the only other thing I thought about, though, not just the where they're going to be located, it just occurred to me that once you legalize it, it's going to flood the market and drop the price. And so the women who are in that business are going to lose. If I'm wrong, tell me.
And that's exactly like Rio de Janeiro, too, because there are like bordels, like the sex houses everywhere. Like you Central, you go South Zone, the West Zone. Sometimes like there's nobody in front of these places. Maybe some of those chicks get like one or two dudes a night. It's because there's so many of them. I was walking down North Senora Copacabana and Copacabana, and I was approached. Cause you got those dudes that stand outside with the flyers for the bordels, and I can walk away with at least 7 or 8 of those. So and it's flooded. They're looking for tourists, but even as a tourist dude, you know what I'm saying, a tourist dude can go right to the beach. Between whatever postal they decide, and they can find one laying on the beach. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't even like you're right. Like once you legalize it, everybody's gonna want to do it. You can have Tom, Dick, and Harry start up their own little whoop wop, and now or chicks, just go out and start doing it and undercut the market price. So I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem like there's any benefit. To be honest with you, somebody's gonna lose. In short,
the women that are already workers are going to be the losers because they're not going to be making as much money as they did before.
I mean, that's true too. I mean, one thing to consider also though is, and I was just thinking about it, like the social stigma behind like paying for sex still, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Like for example, let's just say you have prostitution becomes legal tomorrow and you have 5 prostitutes on your block, regardless if you're living in the suburbs or you're living in an urban development. The social stigma is still going to be there. You're not going to have people who are welcome to you being a prostitute. You're going to have people's kids at the bus stop or people's kids outside and like, oh, well, mommy, who's that? And now, parents are going to have a problem with that. Like society, I wouldn't say society, maybe like the closer knit societies, like the smaller communities may or may not have an issue with that. But the communities that do have an issue with that, there are going to be, those women are going to have to live under situations that's going to be very uncomfortable for them. So, and it'll never really, I don't think, especially in the United States, will ever become a point where it's just as a whole, as the aggregate, is going to be okay with prostitution being legal in their community. Maybe they'll say, okay, well, in California or New Mexico or Nevada, that's cool there, but don't bring it to my neighborhood. until it hits your neighborhood, and now everybody has a problem with it. You know, so I think that's one of the major issues that people may forget if that does become the case.
One of the political terms that I know is called NIMBY, not in my backyard. And they use that to talk about things. For example, we want to build a homeless shelter, and everybody says, yes, we're going to get donations for the homeless shelter. Yes. Where can we build it? And everyone gives the same answer. Anywhere you want that's not near my family. The thing is, everybody says that. So no matter how far down we go, the problem is always going to be, even if they do legalize it and say we don't have a problem with it, well, where is this going to be practiced? Nowhere near any place that's near me, except someone lives everywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, and I can completely see the American political process. It will be dead in the water. It's kind of like the marijuana thing right now. I don't know how that's going. Excuse me, that's going. That's not in my wheelhouse. But how has that taken off in America? Do they now just see it as another trade?
I think North Dakota made it medical uses. I think they made it legal for medical uses. I know my state, they've been kind of fussing around about it. I think the next time they vote on it, it's going to go through because they're getting a lot of pushback for it. But I mean, I don't know. I think the weed thing should be like going quick. I think people are getting a lot more open to that. But as far as the prostitution thing, I don't think that'll ever get the traction to even go anywhere, to be frank with you. I don't think America's ready for that.
They're not ready for it. They're not ready for it, because I'm pretty sure any mother wouldn't want to walk down the street and see a group of women outside on the block. Me and my daughter witnessed it when we were in Oman. Like, we were trying to find an ATM machine, and the gentleman told us to go the wrong way, and when it was dark, and we're going down this dark alley, and she was with me, so we were pretty cool. We were fine, but it took like 2 seconds for me to realize like what the hell was happening. I'm like, wait a minute, like all these women just started coming out at once, and then the street just started getting flooded with cars. So I mean, I'm pretty sure in America, if that happened, no mother wants their daughter to witness.
Question. On a side note, how do you explain that? Like, what's the conversation you have with your daughter when she has questions? Hey, what was that phenomenon we saw? Because clearly she saw that you were uncomfortable. How did you explain that to her?
I just told her, I said, they're prostitutes. I said, they're out here, they're selling their bodies for money. But we talk about that. We talk about sex. I mean, I don't know. My mother didn't have that open dialogue with me about sex and, prostitution. It was just not something that we just had that. It was just like, hush, hush, hush. You don't talk about that kind of stuff. But I'm not like that. We have an open forum about things.
Well, I'm glad you didn't avoid it.
Well, I don't have kids, so I can't answer that question.
Those things, I don't know anybody that really wants to see their child end up there in a way that's different from nobody wants their kid to end up at a dead-end job. But there's something, especially, well, Chris Rock often had that joke. You have one job as a dad, keep your daughter off the pole. That's your main job. So
I think the dead-end job and the prostitution may be a false correlation, though, because at least with a dead-end job, you work at McDonald's for 10 years. Some people would be like, well, at least you were working hard, right? But you're a prostitute, you out selling your body. There's no like, I don't know, there's no what's the word I'm looking for? But you know what I'm saying? People aren't, you know what I'm saying, you're looked at as dirty now. You know what I'm saying? You're looked at stained, tainted, you know what I'm saying? Like you decided to lay on your back. Irregardless of what the circumstances are, people always say, well, you always had another option. You could have worked at McDonald's. That's the exact same excuse they would give you. If you're working a dead-end job, you'd be like, oh, well, at least you're working. Maybe you just need a little bit more ambition. You know what I'm saying? Like, people always give that person working at McDonald's or being a janitor that much more, I don't know, respect or leniency for their decision than, prostitution. So I don't know. I can't agree with that correlation. But I mean, I understand where you went with it, though.
Well, here's the question then. Is it just another job choice? When we say something to someone that's like, oh, well, you could have worked at a fast food restaurant, Is that a sincere accusation? Is prostitution just another job choice?
I don't know. I mean, I mean, it depends, because I mean, you have porn stars who grew up under normal households and they just wanted to do porn, right? I mean, there's always what is it called? There's always people who kind of bypass the norm, right? So I mean, of course, you're gonna have people who just enjoy having sex for money. You have women who just enjoy having sex for money. But for the most part, I think a lot of people is just that's the only option that they felt that they had. They didn't feel like they had any other skills to apply to make money, or they did. It just wasn't in the time span that they needed the money, so they resort to prostitution. So it was a job choice for the moment. I guess we could toe the middle line for that. It's a job choice for what the situation called for in their mind.
Wow. Yeah, this issue got a lot more complex than I thought it was, because there's no end to the different ways, because people are messy and complex, and what drives people into different situations. Kind of like AJ said before he left, where he lives, it's simply seen as a very viable job option. It's just that I can't escape, and again, I may be agreeing with Elise here, I can't escape that feeling of there's a reason we rarely see children of financially stable two-parent homes going into prostitution. There are some, but from what I've read and living in Las Vegas, you don't go into that thinking, you know what, I could just grunt my way through paying for a college degree or something like that. Or it's kind of like, what else? And we haven't even touched on the issue of pimping and pandering, because there are a lot of people out there, mostly men, some women, whose job is to look for people that they can recruit into that business. And they do it often under the guise of just being your friend, and they're very good at identifying the people who come from places that are just not good. There is a guy who was a criminal who then got into podcasting, and I think he might have been a rapper. I'm not a fan of criminals, but he often talks about his past and things he did to try to stay out of trouble. Then he got in trouble again, but his name was Tax Stone. I don't know if you ever heard of his podcast. He then got in trouble for shooting someone after a successful podcasting career. And he said that there was a time in his life when he got into pimping, but he said it was the first time in his life where he felt dirty. And this is a career criminal. This is a guy who did horrible things with a gun. But he said it was the first time he felt like he was taking advantage of somebody that he knew didn't come from a place of really being an equal. You draw your gun on a drug dealer, you rob somebody who's another criminal, you feel okay with that. But he said it was just, you could tell that the women that were coming into this weren't put together the same way as. And he felt that way. He said that's why he got out of it. I don't know if that story is one you'd heard before. I have to find it.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I ain't heard of it. No, I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Oh no, if you ever watch anything that comes on like Max, HBO, or whatever, I forget the name of the TV shows, but they used to have, I don't even know if they come back on because I don't watch TV anymore, but they used to have these shows where they had prostitutes on there, and they had serious issues. They were abused, from childhood or whatever, and they just basically thought that that's all they could do. And, like you were saying, quick, easy money, and good money a lot of times, because I mean, where can you go get like $50 in 10 minutes? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times they are abused, but I didn't know that like in Tokyo, there's a lot of people that don't come from these bad backgrounds, and they just out here fucking for a bag. You know what I'm saying? But I guess that goes back to these Instagram models now that, they're going to go get all this surgery and stuff, because I mean, they basically prostituting.
Well, you touched on something that I was really waiting to get into, that concept of Instagram.
For a bag, or, the lifestyle, or whatever.
There was a woman who friended me on online, and I guess she thought maybe maybe she was prospecting for clients, and quickly found out I'm not interested, but I appreciate the attention. And we ended up having a little bit of a conversation. And one of the things that she said she found out early on is that when you're on Instagram and these guys are talking to you, some of them actually do have the money to say, hey, let me send you an airplane ticket to come hang out with me. Now, hang out is a term that they didn't say prostitution. They never said anything about how he was paying for her ticket to come out there. They never talked about any of the toys he may have bought her out there, but it's prostitution. And it's become this vehicle that a lot of girls use to get out of where they are and get where they want to go. But they're still capitalists is what always ends up happening. And this is my friend who ran a pornography agency told me, because I dealt in the investment market for a while. And I wanted to talk he was a client of mine. I wanted to talk to some of the women that worked for him. And one of the things that he told me was, he said, it's not going to do you any good. I said, well, why not? I want to give them the opportunity to save the way you do. He said, the women in this business who work for me don't come from a place where they can understand the concept of saving. For them, he'll give them a big paycheck for a project they did or a movie they made. And 2 days later, they've got 3 pair of shoes, 2 bags, and that was the whole paycheck.
I mean, and I think one thing that kind of doubles back to what happens when they're done. So, I mean, if we make it legal, and we're just talking about the Instagram thing, how they're not good at saving, making prostitution legal, are we really just amplifying the problem, or are we, providing a means? Because if we already know that they're not saving when they do this, and they don't have any skills, so they can't really, like make additional money. There's no upward mobility from prostitution. Then what happens when they're not able to do that anymore? Now you have women who used to be sex workers, don't have any other way of gaining resources. How are those, like, society now has to pick up those women? You know what I'm saying? So when making it legal, I think making it legal, I have to kind of double back on my first thought. I think making it legal would actually be shooting society in the foot, because what I just mentioned, like, now you're gonna have, let's say a woman is 28 and she doesn't look as good as when she was 21 or 19, and now her prospects are drying up. You know what I'm saying? Like, because let's think about it, if it's legal, you're gonna have fresh women coming in. They're turning 18, they're turning 19, they're turning 20. They're tight-bodied women, and now you have women 28, 29, 30, 32 who are now having their clients siphoned out of their pool by the younger women. Now you have these group of women on the left who don't have any skill. They only trade sex. Now they don't have any means of making money. So what do we do with those women? I mean, I just thought about that too. So what do you do with those group of women who are prostitutes or sex workers? Now they're in their 30s, no skills, no means of making money. So what do you do with them at this point?
Well, society is full of people that had jobs that didn't prepare them for anything more than that. We deal all over the United States with people who worked in industries that went away. But those industries, I mean, you could talk about a coal miner in the South, and they just have no job skills outside of a very specific area.
I mean, I can agree and can't agree with that. I actually worked with the dude who said he was a trucker for like 20 years. And, with the automation coming in and trucks being automated, he now works, technical support, customer service. So, I mean, I can't see the correlation with that. You're talking about somebody who, co-worker is hands-on. Maybe they can find something in a related field. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But sex, I mean, we're talking about sex here, you know what I'm saying? Sex in public is illegal, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like we can create a whole nother industry based on prostitution, you know what I'm saying, for these women to go into. What else can women, these prostitutes, do outside of that once they hit the wall, so to say?
Wow.
Going back to the documentary, well, I guess it was a TV show. I don't know if it was a documentary.
Are you talking about the Ken Burns documentary, Hookers on the Point?
That's one, but there was actually a TV show that used to come on, and they would follow these women and stuff. And they had one old, I'm gonna call her old hoe, but they had one old prostitute on there. And
She was old.
They had one old prostitute on there and stuff, you know, and like you were saying, you know, they be lost, you know, because that's all they did for 20, 30 years and stuff, and they never got any skills. But going back to what you're saying, Yusef, to the coal miner, I mean, you did that for 20, 30 years, and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore because the industry's gone. I mean, you know, it's life, you know, so.
But just like the prostitutes, the coal miners, none of those people came from families that were, well, no, that's not true, because you do have, from every documentary I've seen on it, they come from a lot of very just community-based people who intended to have that job the way that their grandfather and their great-grandfather did forever in their families.
And some of the prostitutes, you know, their mothers were too. So, I mean,
I wonder how common that is, where you have a lineage, where you have, because it would seem like that would be the one thing you'd make sure your daughter didn't do.
I mean, it's a cycle. I mean, we can put that cycle on so many things, not just that.
But at the same time, you know, I know a lot of guys growing up who ended up getting into a lot of trouble, whose dads did the same knuckleheaded things when they were young. And my parents would say, yeah, the reason we didn't want you to hang out with this kid is because when we were in high school, his dad was a street knucklehead who got into the same trouble his son's getting into now. Wow.
Exactly.
That's a thorny one. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys jumping on me on this. This is just one of those things that kind of popped into my mind, and I wanted to kind of flesh that idea out. And I'm glad that I have people who don't mind having these deep discussions. And I always say that if any of you ever host your own, please feel free to call me. I'd love to chat with you guys if you ever have topics that you want to talk about. I want you to send me a message, by the way, and let me know who else I should invite. Somebody you know that'll be a good person to have on the next discussion. Anybody want to do any last log offs? Brandy, you got anything to tell us before you go?
I think that it's. I think just you were saying that how your parents didn't want how you grew up and how they didn't want you to hang around certain group of people. I think it's kind of the kids' choice that, you know, if they want to do, you know, right, because they know the difference between right and wrong. Because me and my daughter talk about this all the time, like choices and, you know, the different things that she knows that she shouldn't do and, you know, what she wants to do. Like, I don't force religion on my daughter. Like, I grew up, you know, Muslim, and I'm not a practicing Muslim, but my daughter, if she wants to be whatever religion she wants to be, it's, you know, it's kind of her choice. So, and I think the same would be this. We could say the same for prostitution too. It's their choice, you know.
Elise?
No, I have nothing else. It's just, you know, a terrible cycle, and it's one of the oldest professions probably outside of farming. So I mean, it's never going away. Poverty is a big contributing factor. Because I think Colombia has like 60% unemployment. So, I mean, you know, if they had skills, if they had, you know, where they could start businesses, where they could get jobs, I mean, do you really think, you know, people would be out here prostituting like that? Because it's deep in Colombia. I mean, I see it. I ain't never even been to Colombia, and I even see it on the Facebook forums. It's that bad. So,
well, don't
yeah.
give me any names. Don't give us any names, but can you give me an example of some of the things you read that make you say that?
Just men getting scammed, number one, and crying about it. And they're like, well, it's Colombia. I mean, people are telling them it's Colombia. I mean, basically all the women are prostitutes. Like, there's no normal women. It's like that bad there.
And I've heard of, and it's like that in the Middle East too, because the women, most of the women that, you know, they get to come over there, they're told they're coming there to work for one particular thing, and then when they get there, they hold their passports hostage, and they're forced to go work for these families as nannies, and then they're, oh, the only way that you can get out of it working for me is you got to pay me 3,000 KD or 15,000 dirhams in order for you to go and back to your country. And so the only thing they know to do is to go on whatever street it is and start, tricking.
Damn. Young way?
And I've seen it. Like my friends, I even got approached by some men when I was in Kuwait. They thought I was a prostitute until they heard me open my mouth. Oh, sorry, you're from America. I was like, okay. Because he asked me how much. I'm like, for what?
Wow.
I don't know, man. I think with me, we talked about this when I first started traveling. You was talking about how traveling outside the state to change your perspective on things, and people don't really agree with your opinion. I don't know, man. This last trip, outside of the other debauchery that happened, like me seeing prostitution up front. Like I seen it the first time I went, but like just being out, not so much in the gringo circle, but more so on the local circle and kind of seeing what it is. Like I lived in Tijuca, so I think was Villa Mimosa is a street completely comprised of brothels and prostitutes. So I went by there because my guy wanted me to see it, and I'm just like, it's legal here, but to think like it's money, sure, but the money is so short term. It's like a band-aid on a big gouge that you got in your leg. You know what I'm saying? Like, and eventually the blood is gonna seep on the adhesive, and that bandage is, what I'm saying? It's not even gonna stop anything in the first place. But you get the point. So, I mean, for me, I don't participate in it. I don't judge dudes who do. That's their money and that's their time. That's how they want to spend it. As far as what it is in its entirety, if it was legal, I mean, it is legal. It doesn't really. It kind of just folds into the society now. It just ends up being something. Like on Facebook, I'm in a lot of Brazilian groups, and you see these videos of married men going to these brothels and just getting beat up by their wives. It's pretty funny, actually. One dude was walking out, and some chick was recording him, and all of a sudden his wife just sneaks him and drags him off into the night. So I mean, I think it just ends up becoming part of society, and it just becomes another problem down the line for the society to deal with. So I mean, I don't know. I really don't have a stance on it because it's not something that I participate in. I can't say that I care, but it's not something that really is top of my priority. As far as my future kids, I definitely want to put my kids in a position where they never have to feel like that is an option for them to have to go out and sell themselves for sex. Like that's one of the things that, the day I do have kids, something that I'm gonna keep very, very close to my heart and try to make sure that never becomes an option to them. So my last words.
Wow. Woo. The only thing is Swans Paul said something in the comment section, and I think it was at least to said it. So all the women are prostitutes. Do you? I don't really think that could possibly be true. That was an exaggeration, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That was hyperbolic. That was mad hyperbolic.
Of course, no, I'm not saying all of them are, but a big percentage of them are, and these men are getting drugged and they're getting beat up and robbed and everything. It's like every day, it's like a new story, and it's like. And people are like, it's Colombia, man. Like, you got to be careful. So I'm just like, well, what are you supposed to think,
Because you got to remember, she's talking, I mean, they're the people that make it on television. Nobody records the regular woman who just went to her job this morning and dropped her kids off at school.
True.
So, I mean, that's the thing. I don't think it was a matter of that being a literal statement. But hey, listen, I'm glad you guys had a chance to jump on with me. You can talk to me in the group. We're going to be looking for some new topics for the next short while, maybe next weekend or the week after that. And love you guys.
Yeah. See you in September. Yeah, I'll be back.